Hello, you are listening to the Mets in the UK podcast, bringing you weekly Mets news and views from a UK perspective, coming at you weekly on YouTube and Spotify. Your co-hosts are Tom NYM UK and Toria XX Toria XX, or that British Mets girl. How are you doing, Toria?
I am good, thank you. The sun's been shining. The Mets won last night. All is well. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks for asking. Okay, so just as a quick reminder, these are weekly podcasts giving you updates on all things Mets from that UK perspective. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Mets in the UK. You want to get involved, use the hashtag MITUK. Now, today we are going to be talking about the past week in all things Mets. We're going to be talking about the trade deadline and some of the other things that have been going on in Mets land, and then looking at the upcoming games that are coming up over the next week or so. So let's start things off with the past week. Now, it's been a bit of a strange one for the Mets. With the All-Star break, we saw Brandon Sproat play in the Futures game. He managed 12 pitches with no hits or runs, which was very good for him. And we saw Pete Alonso take part in the Home Run Derby. 12 home runs out in the first round, not a particularly stellar performance by Pete's standards. And he did make an appearance in the All-Star game, striking out in the ninth inning. Then we moved on to playing the Marlins in Miami. So 4-game series, first game, Jeff McNeil making comeback with a couple of home runs, but the Mets went on to lose the game 6-4. Second game against the Marlins, bullpen was absolutely stellar, leading us to a 1-0 win. Thank you to Luis Severino for a fantastic performance there. Game 3 against the Marlins, lackluster offense, really cost us on that one. 4-2 loss, very disappointing game there on our Sunday UK-friendly baseball game. And then last night, game 4, Jeff McNeil with another home run, loving life in Miami, and Lindor hitting a 2-home-run game for a 6-4 Mets win. All of that's happened in the last week. Now, Toria, I know you watch way more Mets baseball. You are like every minute of every game glued to your telly. What are your thoughts on the last week?
As far as the All-Star break goes, let's focus on Brandon Sproat. I mean, he was electric, absolutely solid. I mean, my annoyance, and I know this is shared, is that Futures game should be standalone so that we can all watch it and enjoy it. I was sending in positive vibes, but we had a game going on at the same time. So I couldn't really get that invested in it. But amazing for him. And just going along with everything that we already know about him. Exciting things to come there. As far as the Home Run Derby and the game itself goes, I mean, not only did Pete not have the best couple of days, bless him, in the American League won again, and the uniforms were dreadful again. Honestly, for many years I have booked the day after the All-Star game off work so that I can, and I've had a bit of rest in the day, and I've gotten all the snacks in, and I've gotten really excited. This year, I had no reason to book the day off. I could have watched it all. I wasn't bothered. I just wasn't bothered. It's been declining the past few years, but nonetheless, it has to be done. We got through it. It gave our bullpen, most importantly, a much needed rest. Coming back, I'd said that we needed to have a good start coming back from the break. Splitting with the Marlins isn't necessarily the start that I was hoping for. That first game was, we looked like they'd all come back from the beach. I was hoping that they would be re-energized rather than lethargic. Lethargic, I think, is the word, and the same goes on Sunday night as well. They looked lethargic. Even Saturday, we were fortunate. We had Severino was on fire, and you could see he was well up for it. He was absolutely on it. Even when he got himself into trouble, he got out of it. And it was like he believed that he was going to get out of it, and he was so pumped. So we were really fortunate. And of course, he was backed by the bullpen doing their job. Sunday was really frustrating. It was one of those where we could have had it. We lost that game. The Marlins didn't win that game. We lost the game. And then last night, we showed some signs of life. Finally. It still wasn't stellar. And you could almost argue that the Marlins lost that game just the same as we did on Sunday, right? Because their errors, they had errors left, right, and centre. And we didn't even capitalize on all of them. And we left the bases loaded. Don't even get me started on that. So it was by no means perfect. However, we split the series. We did not lose the series. And I think that we can, that's what we need to focus on. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we just need to not lose series. So it wasn't the return that I would have liked, but
sure.
I'll take it. I just hope that we find some of that energy, and we take there was that Lindor being lifted up right in the dugout.
Yes.
Like fun. It looked last night again. Iglesias was just on it last night.
I can't stop hitting. It's great.
Incredible. So it looked like the fun was starting to come back again last night. So I'm really hoping that we can roll that on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, you just touched on there with the fun. I think that was certainly one of the things that we've mentioned it before. We saw in spring training. And it's been quite a nice theme throughout Mendoza's time with the Mets. They seem to be enjoying themselves, whether that's popular or not, with the whole bus selfie and things. But I think it's been nice to see them enjoying the baseball and seeing Jeff McNeil smile. Francisco Alvarez's reaction to Jeff smiling was like, "What are you doing?" It was all in good cheek. It was all really positive. Lots of positive vibes around the team. Like you say, Sevy's reaction to his game shows that he cares. He's really happy to be a Met. And I think there was all that talk around him texting some of the Yankees players and the things that he said about them only having 2 hitters. But that all comes from being in a happy, confident place. And it's like you say, it's nice to see. It's disappointing with the results. The Marlins are always pesky. They're that thorn in the side for the Mets. And, you never know what you're going to get when you play them because they always seem to be our kryptonite. But coming off the All-Star break, where there was inevitably going to be a bit of rust because they've not played together in a week, obviously the bullpen had benefited from that. We've not seen a bullpen implosion yet, touch wood. But it's been nice to see them come back and give it a go. Obviously, more than 2 wins would have been nice. It would have been nice to take the series. But considering the context of when we were playing the Marlins and we were playing the Marlins, I'll take that at the moment, and like you say, as long as we keep winning series, as long as we don't lose series or splitting them is fine, I suppose, as well. I will absolutely take that. And I think certainly over the next few games, when we get to that point, there's some really key ones coming up.
Yeah. And actually, the other way to look at it as well is almost that we were fortunate that we were playing the Marlins. If we had performed the way that we did even on Saturday against almost any other team, we're not getting a result. So it could have been worse if it were almost anyone other than the Marlins. So, you know me, I'm always going to find a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with the lackluster offense, there were still positives in the game. There were still good things to take away from that. Obviously, we will always look for those good things, but onwards and upwards, as they say. Whilst we're talking about the last week, lots of things have been going on in the world of trades. So we're in a situation where there's still a week to go. At the time of recording, we're recording this Tuesday night. The game hasn't taken place yet. So there's still a full week to go on the trade deadline. Still loads of areas there that need picking up. The Mets traded left-hand pitcher Tyler J to the Brewers. They got back a right-hand pitcher called TJ Shook. He's a double-A pitcher. He's done some starts and then some relief appearances, so not really quite sure what we're going to get from that. But the fact that he's double-A, we're not going to see him anytime soon. Claimed left-hand pitcher Alex Young from the Giants off of waivers. He's been optioned to AAA. Signed catcher Logan Porter, who's also been optioned to AAA. The reason that move took place, there's 2 of the catchers at Syracuse are on the IL. So it seems to be more of a depth addition covering that injured list at the moment, rather than it being, Torrens or Alvarez missing any major games. They've also signed several free agents to minor league deals as well. We also saw the draft take place during the All-Star break. Slight shift in strategy from the Mets here. Previous sort of international drafts, the Mets have gone after shortstops, which is a coveted position when drafting because they're looking for tradable assets, or as we've seen with, Luis Angel Acuna, looking to maybe convert them into other positions. I know Acuna's been playing second base, but center field as well. It's a flexible position, and the Mets, certainly for the last couple of international drafts, have really gone after infielders, especially shortstops, signed quite a few catchers as well. This time with the draft that took place during the All-Star break, they've sort of gone the other way, really. They've gone mostly after pitching.
Yeah.
Gone with a couple of outfielders as second basemen. 20 players all in all have been drafted by the Mets, but not all of them have signed as of the time of recording. Currently, the Mets are up to 12 of the 20 that have been signed. The first round pick has not signed yet. This is not something to panic about. Sometimes players like to take a couple of days or a week to make their decision before signing a contract. Sometimes stuff comes up. There was a couple of years ago, the Mets drafted Kumar Rocker, who was a pitcher, ended up taking an evaluation of him, found a horrific shoulder injury or Tommy John, I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head. I actually declined signing him in the end. So, if you're new to the world of drafting, please don't panic at the thought of 12 of 20 have signed. It's nothing to worry about. It'll sort itself out. The Mets will get the players that they want and the players that want to be here ultimately. But it's an interesting change in position there on the draft from the Mets. Whilst we're talking about AAA, Fujinami has returned. He's pitching well on his relief outings in AAA. Kodai Senga also made a rehab assignment appearance for Syracuse. Didn't do too well, got quite a lot of hits against him. Not the best performance by all means for him, but the main positive there is that, he's pitching in competitive games. Still no date on when he might return to the Mets. And then finally, a bit of breaking or developing news. The Mets have signed Jackie Bradley Jr., who's an outfielder. Some of you may remember Jackie from his time with the Red Sox from 2013 to 2020. All-Star back in 2016. He won the World Series with the Red Sox back in 2018. He was the ALCS MVP that year and also won a Gold Glove in that year. Last year, he was with the Kansas City Royals. Spent the first part of this year with the Long Island Ducks. The Mets have signed him to a minor league deal. This has been reported by a number of people in the Mets media, but at the time of recording has not been confirmed by the Mets yet. So it's still a breaking, developing news story. Okay, take a deep breath there. Toria, what are your thoughts on the draft, on the major sort of signings that have taken place and the potential signing of Jackie Bradley Jr.?
Yeah, so for me, the most exciting period of that is naturally the draft, because I like to see where we're focusing, because I think that is, it says a lot about how far ahead the organization is thinking and how much they're valuing the farm now, which is a welcome change.
Yes.
And to reiterate what you were saying, these things do take time and everybody needs to do their due diligence. Not that a whole load of work hasn't gone into it up to this point, but until an offer's made, there are certain things that you can and can't do, certain conversations that you can and can't have. So that is what's going on now. Some of it still, it's going to be negotiation, and some of it even, they'll claim a draft pick knowing full well that actually they're going to use that draft pick to trade for somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's there's a lot of chess that goes on, and that's why the draft intrigues me every year. I do get excited about it. The focus on the pitchers I think it's really good, right? At the moment, arguably we have, when they're all fit, a really good, solid starting pitching rotation. We know that we're having problems with bullpen. These are problems that are always going to occur. We always need pitching. As you rightly mentioned, historically we've focused more recently on infielders. So it makes sense for us to now start stocking with pitchers. We've got some, the likes of Brandon Sprite. We've got some there already, but they're going to come up, right? So then we're backfilling. So of all of those that we sign in the draft, maybe 30% of them make it far enough. So you know, it's not odd to have signed so many. So that's really exciting. As far as JBJ goes, I admire him. He's, dare I say it, what is he, like 32 maybe?
He's
like
34.
34. Okay, so he's aging. I know that sounds ridiculous. I hate saying that in the world of sport, but as far as sports people go, you know, he's aging. But with that, he brings experience. There's no question that he has got experience. He gives us depth. I think DJ Stewart perhaps may be a little restless. He might be less happy about the news. And I'm going to be biased and say that, you know, if anybody is making room, I would prefer for it to be DJ than Tyrone. Because let's be honest, it's one of those. I am a big fan of Tyrone. So I hope that it comes off. I would be happy if it comes off. I think he is an upgrade on DJ Stewart. My concern is that it could just as easily be Taylor. I think if you're looking at trades, Taylor probably has more value than Stewart. So that's my only concern. But I'm excited about that. You also touched on Senga making his last rehab start. It wasn't the most successful start. However, it's not causing any alarm whatsoever. No. I think that they may be planning for him to be back as early as Friday against the Braves. I think it was more, I don't think they're worried about him giving up hits. I think it was more a case of him being out on the field for a period of time, playing with his mechanics, making sure that it's more about what we've learned with Senga is that actually it's him that drives these things. It's him that decides if he's ready or if he's not, or if he's comfortable or if he's not. And I guess there's an element of professionalism in that unless he feels like he can contribute, he doesn't want to be back. But at the same time, even a less than par by his standards, Senga would probably still be useful for us right now. So there's got to be that balance there. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about. I'm hoping that we get some explicit confirmation very shortly that we can expect him back on Friday.
Yeah, and I think with Senga, the thing to remember as well is that they've done all the scans and the due diligence on his shoulder, because that was initially the problem that he was saying. And there's nothing there. There's nothing wrong. But every time he throws, certainly in the first half of the season, he was throwing and there was sort of something doesn't feel right. Now, having spoken to a couple of people who are a bit more in the know medically and pitching wise about this, they say it could be anything that's causing this. You know, he could have potential knee niggle that's throwing off his pitching mechanics. So I think the Mets have done really well to sensibly handle this, let Senga, you know, just manage his own body and take it slow. They've not rushed him back, and they've said, okay, fine, you know, if you need some time, that's okay with us. And I think that's really sensible of them, that they've not just, certainly we would have seen that under previous ownership. They would have just given him a few injections, chucked him in and hoped for the best. But it's a nice refreshing change to that. Whilst we're talking about injuries, I think with the JBJ signing, I think, you know, there's still uncertainty around Marte and when he's coming back. You know, I think you're absolutely right. If you're looking at the squad, the fact that JBJ is a left-handed bat who plays right field, that's the same as DJ Stewart. But I think at the moment, with the uncertainty around how long Marte is going to be out, that last press conference from Mendoza where he mentioned Marte being slow was the word that he used. that's a big concern. And I think having JBJ there ready to sort of step in, certainly in the short term, you know, if competition for Stewart might wake him up a little bit, might get his bat going again. It might not, but I think it will certainly be an interesting situation to watch in the coming weeks. I don't think it's going to be a straight out you go DJ, in you come, because they need outfield help. That's for certain. You can't always rely on Jeff McNeil trotting into the outfield just to sort of cover them for a few games. But yeah, very interesting times going on with the Mets at the moment. And whilst we're talking about things going on at the moment, we've got a lot of games coming up. So the Mets last night got stuck in Miami. Eric Chavez posting on Instagram, not a happy bunny about this. Stuck on the tarmac until 5 a.m. the time they got back to New York. The Yankees had a much smoother ride. Obviously, we would not accuse anyone of any sort of bias or wrongdoing here, but something smells a little bit fishy, and it's not just the Marlins. So, coming up, we've got the Yankees in the Bronx Tuesday and Wednesday. Nice 2-game Subway Series to kick off some time back in New York, albeit away from Citi Field. We've then got a 4-game series against the Braves, which is at home, which is particularly interesting because at the moment, if you are the kind of person who likes to look at the standings, we are 3 games behind the Braves, who sit at the top of the wildcard position. So it's a very interesting time to be playing the Braves, certainly at Citi Field. And then sort of into next week, there is a 3-game series against the Twins. But by the time we record the next podcast next week, we'll only have played one of those games, but I'm mentioning the full series now. So if we take the important ones, not to disrespect the Twins, but we'll take the important ones. Yankees and Braves, what are the predictions? 6 games coming up. What are your thoughts?
4 out of 6.
4 out of 6. Okay, where do you think that's coming from?
Again, verging on optimistic. I think we're probably going to split with the Yankees. Agreed. Purely because, I mean, particularly Soto at the minute he's just a machine.
I love Citi Field as well.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously got the sweep over them the last time we played them. Yeah, have to get that in there.
Of course.
But I think that they will be wanting some retribution for that. But we'll equally be up for it, right? So
of course, yeah.
So I think that we may have a little hangover from the delayed flight today, perhaps, and then get at them tomorrow. The Braves are struggling right now, and they are picking up injury after injury after injury. If ever there was a good time to play the Braves, it's now. And of course, our Trace is going to be there cheering them on, so that's going to make all the difference, obviously. So yeah, I think I genuinely think we can get. I'll be happy 3-3.
Yeah, of course.
I don't care which way those 3-3 come. I would take that right now. If you offer me that with these 6 games coming up, then I'm good. But I think we're going to edge it, and I also think that we are going to be very close to the Braves by the time we play the Twins.
Interesting take. I agree with you. I think 4 out of 6. I would definitely take that. I think even if we did go 3-3, like you said at the start of the pod, as long as that's not a step backwards, we're still maintaining our current position. It would be nice to gain some ground, of course. We would love to see wins against the Yankees and the Braves, of course. I think we just need to be a little bit realistic, like you say. Obviously, that flight won't have helped things. I'm not wanting the Mets to lose, please don't get me wrong on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if tonight was the game that they lost 2 against the Yankees and then they made it up with a win tomorrow, just because of the sheer body clock, and traveling is like, it's not the best at the best of times anyway. So I think it's a good time to play the Braves. I think no one saw this season coming for them. Everyone had them down as running away with the NL East, as they always do. And it's just not going well for them in the slightest. So I think you're right. It's definitely a good time to play them. I can't see the Mets sweeping them, but I can certainly see them taking the series. Certainly if the bats come alive, and pitching wise seems to be okay at the moment. Touch wood, they seem to be performing well. If Senga does return, that will be interesting as well. And yeah, I think if they can set themselves up in a positive way for that Twins 3-game series at Citi Field, I think that's a little bit more of a break after 6 difficult games of baseball. Even though the Braves are not there at the moment, they have got those injuries, like you say. They're still a difficult team to play. They've still got depth, and they're going to want to beat us for bragging rights in the division. So interesting times ahead. Any closing thoughts to finish the show?
Only that I just want to see that fun come back, continue. If they can't get up for the Subway Series, then it's lost. You can't. They will be up for it tonight. They may be a little lethargic. Even if we lose, I want them to lose well. Yeah. I want the energy to be there. I would love to see Jeff continue his renaissance. I think that it's been really, really positive seeing him coming back through. He's kind of been the last one that we've been waiting for. I know Martinez has been through a bit of a slump recently, but Jeff's just been in a slump all year long. So it's, and we love Jeff. We don't want to see Jeff struggling. So I'd love to see that continue. But yeah, just like my biggest thing over this Marlins series was just that it seemed a little lethargic, and I just want to see that flip back to the fun, happy, buzzy vibe that we've had. If we get that back, then bring on August.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anything's possible with this team, with that buzz and that vibe around them. Like you said, I think as long as we are competitive, if we are competitive and lose, I can take those kind of games all day long. It's when you have to sit through flat bats after flat bats. Those are the difficult games to watch. Okay, so I'll bring the episode to a close. Try and keep it under that half an hour mark for all you people that love to listen during the lunchtime break. Thank you for listening to the Mets in the UK podcast. Just a reminder, we are on YouTube and Spotify each week, bringing you all things Mets from a UK perspective. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Mets in the UK, using the hashtag MITUK to get involved. I've been your co-host, Tom, NYM UK, and I've been joined today by Toria, who is XX Toria XX, or that British Mets girl online. So, Toria, thanks for joining me and talking about all things Mets. We'll see you in the same time next week, and let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.